How is it possible for human beings to treat other human beings in this sort of way? And I think we can't escape the rather depressing fact that most human beings probably have the potential for doing terrible cruelty, as well as the potential for doing great good.
Vision presents Jonathan Glover, discussing the dark side of human nature.
What I try to do is look at the psychological components which are on the dark side, the cruel side. And as I see it, one way of looking at that is to look at what normally restrains us in everyday life from cruelty. And they're things like sympathy for other people, respect for their dignity, a sense of the sort of person one wants to be. I don't want to be the sort of person who is a torturer or a mass murderer. My concern in thinking about the atrocities is that the sense of moral identity, which usually functions as a restraint, we don't do things which we don't want to be the sort of person who does that sort of thing, this can be eliminated or eroded in various ways. One is the complications of the machinery that's needed for many modern atrocities. I mean, because both society and technology are so complicated, you can have a state of affairs where so many people are involved that nobody feels personally responsible, so that nobody feels, I'm becoming the sort of person who is killing lots of innocent men and women, civilians, for instance. I suppose what I have in mind when I talk about moral identity as one of the things that restrains people from committing atrocities is that most of us have some idea of the sort of person we would like to be, or the sort of person particularly we wouldn't like to be. What I've said about the dark side of human nature poses the problem, and I suppose I think there's a better side of human nature that is the best we can do as a solution to the problem. I mean, we have the resources in us, as we've seen all too often, for terrible cruelty, for killing vast numbers of people, either closely or at a distance. But I also think that in us there are countervailing psychological forces, whether they're planted by God, as a religious person might believe, or they're as a result of evolution, as a secular person might believe. We do have the capacity to sympathize with other people. Have we seen the end of the violence that characterized the 20th century? I should have thought it's very unrealistic to suppose we've seen the end of it. The idea that there will be no more wars, no one will ever get tortured again, no genocides, no tribal conflicts, that seems to me wildly optimistic. But I am a qualified optimist. I'm inclined to think that, although we haven't seen the end, there is the possibility of taking steps which will slowly and gradually reduce the level of violence.